Good morning, good morning. Welcome to this segment of Village in Motion. It's my pleasure to be here today with the Reverend Dr. Len Kalkwarf. Today we'll be talking about one of his new books, Daily Devotions. And so we want to welcome you to Village in Motion today.
Thank you.
Let's just begin. We want to have like a little fireside chat during our conversation today. Let's begin by having you share some of your background. I know many people know you at Green Spring, but there are probably others who don't, but just share with us about your background.
Okay, I think in relation to the book especially, I think it might be well for me to say that I grew up in a Christian home.
Okay.
And not strict home, but my parents were very liberal in many ways, but there were certain things we did. We went to church every Sunday.
Okay.
Went to Sunday school.
Yes.
And we also went to catechetical training.
Okay.
So that was part of my religious background. And from there, when I was in high school, I felt that I ought to go into the Christian ministry.
Okay.
And I went to my denominational school out in Iowa, and that's where I started. I got my bachelor's degree. And then I went on to New Brunswick Theological Seminary in New Brunswick, New Jersey. Mm-hmm. And then after that, I was ordained and served in parish churches for 50 years.
Oh my, that's a long time to serve, but I'm sure filled with many adventures and lots of great things, lots of learning opportunities, and lots of growth.
Served congregations in upstate New York, Long Island, outside of Philadelphia. In fact, I served a congregation outside of Philadelphia for 34 and a half years.
Oh my.
And I served a international congregation in Kuwait at a time when most people had no idea where Kuwait was.
Okay, how long were you there?
A little over a year.
Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And after that, when I retired, officially retired in 1991, and immediately after retirement, I was involved in preaching in different churches. Then I became like an interim minister in a very small congregation in New Jersey. And then shortly after that, I was invited to serve on a large Presbyterian church. In fact, there were 4 of us ordained ministers, so it was a very large congregation. I was the 4th minister. I spent 7 years there, and had a delightful time. Had some very important things to do. My primary task at the time was to work with older adults.
Oh,
and my wife had been working as a hospital in the hospital as a registered nurse for some 40 years, and she was also a member of that congregation. And so when she retired, she then started a parish nurse program in that particular congregation.
Okay.
And so together we did a lot of pastoral calling and serving communion to different sick and shut-in. I think we had something like 90 sick and shut-ins that we visited.
Oh my.
Yeah. Oh my. And they were not living in a particular home. We traveled all about, so it was not at all unusual for us to put about 50 miles on a car on some afternoon.
All while trying to, you had 3 children as well, right?
Yes, although they were all adult children by that time, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So those are your kind of a history of your ministry background. You're also an author. You have written several books and plays, publications. You want to share a little bit about those? We have a couple of the books here on the table. If you can see this one is Exploring the Libraries of the U.S. Presidents. You want to share a little bit about that?
That's kind of my hobby, studying the presidents, and of course I have been doing a program on Channel 6. Once a quarter on one of the different presidents from the presidential libraries primarily. But Beverly and I have visited all of the presidential libraries, and we have visited at least one site related to every one of our former presidents.
Oh my.
Most of the time would be like their birthplace, but also some very important spots as well. So and as a result of that, I wrote that book. and have been speaking about it. In fact, this summer I spoke when we were up on vacation in Maine. Spoke at several public libraries as well as a number of Rotary clubs about that particular book. So
Okay.
that's kind of my hobby.
Oh. And then there's another one that we have here, and I know this one is special too.
Yep.
It's a book called Dear Craig.
Yes.
Can you share a little bit about this one with us?
Yes, this is a series of 15 letters. They're addressed to my grandson. I thought that would be an appropriate thing to do, to just have it sent to somebody, so it would be my grandson. But these 15 letters are written as if they were written by these men and women who were involved with the crucifixion and life of Jesus. And an attempt to, for them to be able to express who they were, why they did what they did, for example. And that's how these letters are written.
Okay.
It's kind of more of a creative type.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what a great gift, though. That's a great gift.
He was surprised.
To your grandson. I mean, not many grandsons get something like that.
Right.
But that's just a wonderful legacy, too, for him to have.
Prior to that, I had written three other books. They were textbooks. I was asked by, and that's how my writing really started. I was asked by the executive of our Board of Education of our denomination if I would write some books for 5th and 6th graders for catechetical training.
Okay.
And that was way back in 1963, 64, something like that. That's when I got started. And then since then, I've written a number of articles that have been published. One of the first ones that I had published was an article, actually it was a revised sermon that I had done. And I did a first-person sermon on Pontius Pilate. And I sent that for publication, and it was published, and the response was very favorable.
Okay.
So that kind of encouraged me to write a few other things, which I have done. Then I guess it was just before we moved to Green Spring, and that's 14 years ago that we came here. When I was in this Presbyterian church, I wrote a drama. Had to do with, of course, the crucifixion of Jesus and his, especially in front of Pilate and Caiaphas and so on. I had that published. And this is the drama that we are doing here every year now.
How many years have you been doing that?
I think it's either the 11th. I think it's the 11th year that we're doing it here now.
Oh my.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we have almost 50 people from Green Spring involved in the production of this. Yeah. Which
It's a
has
big
been
to-do.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's gone very well. And I
Okay.
think people have responded very positively to that because it's a little different from the normal Monday, Thursday type of program.
Yes,
So, yeah.
yes. And I've seen it. It's very well done.
Well, thank you.
Very well done.
Thank you.
I'd like to jump into the book that we're here to talk about today, Daily Devotions. Can we just begin by talking about the inspiration for this book? You know, how did the book come to be?
It's kind of interesting. I had finished writing the book about the presidential libraries. And I'm not sure how long it is now, 3 years ago probably. We're on vacation in Maine, and I was sitting at my desk and I was flipping through some of my foremost sermons. And as I was reading through some of the sermons, I thought, you know, some of these things would make good devotional.
Okay.
And so the more I thought about it, the more I thought, well, maybe what I ought to do is just get some ideas from these former sermons and then rewrite them so they're more in a devotional form and shorter.
Okay.
And that's how I really got started on them. Contrary to what I know some ministers do, I always wrote out all of my sermons. And then I would normally go into the pulpit without the manuscript. I did that for years. I don't do that anymore. I don't trust my memory as much as I used to.
I understand.
But in any event, so I have all of my sermons that I've ever preached. We're talking about several thousand now.
Oh my goodness.
Some of which
That's fantastic.
I was able to use them in terms of the basis for writing
Sure.
the devotion. So
Sure. Do you find that, and I know you've pulled from your sermons over the years, have you found that your own life experiences are a part of those sermons, or are featured in your book in any of the meditations?
I would say they're not featured that much, not very obviously.
Okay.
But on the other hand, very obviously, I'm very much into these because they grew out of some of my sermons, for example.
Yes.
And sermons are written as a result of a person's life experiences.
Right,
So,
right.
Yeah. So,
How long did it take for you? Because we have 365 devotions,
actually,
including one for leap year, right?
366.
366.
Yes. About a year and a half, I think it did it. I used to sit down every morning. I would, for example, here at Green Spring, I would go for my walk early in the morning, and then after my walk, I would spend about an hour at my desk writing. And so it took me about a year and a half to write the book.
Okay. And then who designed your cover? Is this from your publisher, or is this?
The publisher did that.
Okay.
I decided not to try to design it myself, and so on. So they were the ones that developed that.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I read that your daughter also helped with
Oh,
this
yeah,
particular book.
Very much so. My daughter was basically my editor.
Okay.
She told me, "Dad, you have to change some of their language, make it more readable, you know." And then she also checked some of my grammar, for example. I appreciated that because when I'm sitting down writing, I'm not too concerned about spelling or grammar oftentimes, because I want to get my ideas down on the paper.
Okay.
And so afterwards, I would go check it out the best I could. But then she went through all of it.
Okay.
And I appreciated her doing that, because at the time she was still very gainfully employed and traveling a lot. In fact, for a while she was stationed in London and in Paris. And I would send her by email, you know, the next chapter or two or three, and then she would work on them then and send them back to me.
So that was a year and a half for her too.
Yes. Well, she did my other two books as well, so
Okay.
she's been at it for a long time.
Oh my.
I think she's glad it's over.
But there might be a next one, right? So she can help with
Well,
that one.
Who knows? Right now, I have no intentions of writing another book, but on the other hand, I get a little restless sometime. I want to do something
So
like that.
you'll have another inspiration,
Yes.
maybe for another book.
Yeah.
Let's just talk a little bit about the way that the book is structured.
Okay.
And so with each of the daily devotions, with each of the meditations, you begin with a Bible verse.
Yes.
And then you go into a devotional thought or a story.
Right.
And you close with a brief prayer.
Right.
The actual thoughts or the stories that are intermingled in all of the devotions, is that also content that comes from your sermons, or did you add material
Both.
to it?
Both,
Okay.
yeah. As I went along, of course, I was making major changes and so on, sure. Yeah,
Okay.
both. The other thing I'd like to say about that is that while we are seasonal people, and we have our holidays and so on, so now we're moving toward Thanksgiving and then
Right.
Christmas and so on.
Right.
But we also have our secular holidays, and what I try to do is kind of follow the seasons.
Okay.
I follow during Lent. They are more the Lenten type of a devotional. Easter, of course. 4th of July, although a secular holiday, I also use that. In fact, I talked about, as I recall, on July 4th, I have one on freedom.
Okay.
Not just secular freedom, but religious freedom, and especially based upon the book of Galatians, which is the great epistle of freedom. I use that. And so I did, and even on terms of election and so on, I tried to gear the devotion kind of toward that particular event. And obviously Thanksgiving and Christmas were very easy to do. The problem with Lent and Easter is that it does not fall the same time every year, so it's kind of spread over a period of time.
Right.
Yeah, yes.
Okay. What is it, what is one of the things that you like, personally, you like most about the book? Like, what is the thing that maybe gives you the greatest joy about the material that you've put together? I know oftentimes we can, write things and then hearing about how those things have been a source of inspiration for other people.
Yeah, I would say overall, what I tried to do, and I hope I was successful, I think I was successful in doing this, is trying to remind the reader that this has to do with what God has done, and that what is important is not what we do in order to win God's favor, but what we do is in response to what God has done for us. And that's what I tried to do throughout the whole book.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think that there were a couple of them in particular. There are many wonderful devotions in this book, but there was one that I read, and I just want to read it to our audience today. It's the one for December 25th. And let me just get this page here.
That must be Christmas.
That must be Christmas. I think so. And let me just read this. Let's share with you. You can be a part, continue to be a part of our fireside chat.
All right.
And it's entitled, "The Search is Over." The search is over. When they saw that the star had stopped, they were overwhelmed with joy. That's from Matthew chapter 2, verse 10. Our knowledge of astronomy may make us question how a star could have stopped for the wise men over the place where Jesus was born. But the star has stopped many times for many people. Some of us never knew a time when we weren't a Christian. We were brought up in a Christian home and went to Sunday school and church on a regular basis. While we may have wavered from time to time, we never doubted that we belonged. Our great comfort in life has always been that we belong, body and soul, both in life and death, to our faithful Savior, Jesus Christ. We didn't have to travel any further to find him. For us, the star had stopped. But not everybody comes to the faith this way. Many have had to travel the road of doubt, confusion, and experimentation. And then they finally found what they had been looking for, a faith in God through Jesus Christ. They traveled a long and often difficult road, but finally they arrived. It was then that the star stood still, for God had found them. Surely then they can identify with the wise men. We don't know where they came from, but we do know they came a distance. How far? We don't know. But finally they came to the place where they too had the Savior. It was then that the star stopped. Having a star stop in our solar system may create difficulty about our knowledge of astronomy. Yet, it is a great symbolism of what happens in our spiritual journey. It is the symbolic reminder that once we have arrived, once we have been found God, the star stops. For all of us, those who always knew and those who finally found him, the star stops. Then it becomes a time to see, learn, and understand the one we had sought to find. And it closes. We are grateful, O Lord, that the star, in the form of our parents, teachers, mentors, or a host of others, was the means that led us to the Savior, whose birth we celebrate this day. And having found him, help us to understand what his life and ministry are all about. Amen. I think the metaphor of a star stopping was I just found that fantastic. I thought it was a great metaphor.
Well, thank you. I remember writing that, and I must say that it sounds even better when you read it.
I'm glad.
That's great.
You know, you think about going through life, and that's, you know, regardless of whatever your faith is, you know, when you get to a place where you need to be, to me, it's symbolic of that star stopping.
Right.
That search is really over.
Yeah.
And you don't have to look anymore.
Right.
Might,
all of a sudden, I've arrived.
Yes, I've arrived.
And that's great.
And that might just be that one area. That could be other things that we're still searching, because there's this continuum, I think, in life where we're always searching and we're seeking understanding. I remember in divinity school talking a lot in systematic theology about faith-seeking understanding. So can certainly relate to that. In talking about devotions, many people have written about them. We're blessed to have you right here with us, and this wealth of knowledge, this wealth of even history that you present is certainly evident. But the meditations, I think that people use meditations for many different things. I like the idea that when you were working on this, that you would go for your walk and then you would come back and you would write. In terms of doing meditations on a daily basis, and whatever practices people use, to be able to stop and to pause in the busyness of day, and certainly at Green Spring there's no shortage of things to do. I was pleasantly surprised when I came to be employed here about just the wealth of things that are available to residents.
We all need appointment books now.
You do.
Yes. But I must say that people do devotions in different ways. I recognize that, and at different times of the day and so on. I remember my parents, hard workers on the farm, but every night, every night they would have their devotions. They would always read the Bible and have a short devotional booklet and so on. For me, I use an entirely different approach, but walking in the morning, I walk alone. I deliberately walk alone so that I can meditate and think, and that's the beginning of my devotional day. Then I may be reading things and so on later on, but that's how I start.
Yes. And I think that people will find your book just a great centering, whether you're using it in the morning, in the afternoon, or at night, before you go to sleep. It's just great to be able to pause and to reflect, and to have something that's already written out for you that you can take and that you can think and you can ponder and you can use as a source of inspiration and encouragement. I think, and in particular, when times are difficult, when we're going through trying circumstances, and we need to know that there is a presence, that God is with us, that there is hope, that there is still joy even, that these types of meditations are so encouraging.
And I've been very pleased the response that I've gotten regarding this book. There's any number of people here at Green Spring who already own the book because they bought it at our spring fair. I forget what the name of that fair was. And people have been buying it from me since then. And the response I've gotten, in fact, several people have purchased more than one copy because they've been buying it to give us presents, for example. So,
if you had to pinpoint one or maybe even a few things that you want people to know about your book, what would those things, or what would that thing be?
That's a very difficult question to answer. Again, what I said earlier on, what I tried as a theme, I would hope that as a result of reading this, they would become very much aware of the fact that it is what God has done, that's the important thing, and that what we do has to be in thanksgiving and response to what he has done for us. And I tried in many of the devotions to make that very, very clear. So
Yes.
that's probably the underlying theme that I would
Yes.
like them to recognize.
Yes, and I think that rings loud and clear
Okay.
throughout everything that's in this book. You know, I see it as one of those great resources that you can turn to, and you can use it because it's, you know, specific to from January 1st through December 31st. You can go to the meditation for that particular day. Or, you know, in some instances, I might have read something earlier this year that happens to be where I am in my season of life right now. So I go back and I reread
Right.
it.
Oh,
and,
sure.
and I get some new information. I get some new inspiration, some new encouragement. So it's right here. It's bound.
Yes.
And speaking of that, how can people get a copy of Daily Devotions?
Well, they can purchase it, of course, online, but they can purchase it directly from me because I have copies.
You do have copies.
Yes. And especially now at the Holiday Bazaar, which is coming up in December, I
Okay.
will have copies there then as well.
Okay.
And the rest of the time, they can order it online. Westbow is the one place. They can go. Amazon will also have it, for example.
Okay.
Yeah.
And but they can get it from you.
Yes, they can get it from me, and the advantage of that is I will deliver it to their door, and I will autograph the
You
book
will
for them.
autograph it. And everyone, I think, should have an autographed copy. That makes it even more special to have the author himself
Yeah.
autograph our books. And I know that I'm going to have one too. Are there any other takeaways that you think that people should have about your book? Anything that we've missed during our time, our fireside chat today?
No, I don't think so. I think the major thing, yes.
We covered it all.
Yeah.
So I just encourage you to, if you're watching, to get a copy of the Reverend Dr. Len Kalkwarf's book, Daily Devotions. It will surely serve as a source of inspiration, as we said, a source of encouragement, and I think it's beautifully written and heartfelt, and I think that really spills over into, you know, from page to page. Also in the back, he lists all of his reference notes, so that's good with any great writer. You'll find that as well, but certainly as he is known in the community, this is a great resource for you to have. So he mentioned that it will be available at the Holiday Bazaar in December,
yeah.
that you can get it on Amazon, that you can get it on Westbow Press. And what other place did you mention? I want to make sure people know exactly where to purchase your book.
Barnes and Nobles and so on. And in some cases there are in the bookstore, but most of the time it's safer just to go and order it online.
Okay.
Yes.
So all of you Green Spring residents out there, get your copy. It's almost hot off the press, but get your copy of Dr. Kalkwarf's book today. And certainly at the Holiday Bazaar, I think you'll be pleased that you have a copy on your shelf. Get one for yourself. Get one to give as a gift. It'll be a blessing to anyone who picks it up and reads it, I assure you.